Here at Ground Zero, we'll have all the exclusive interviews with the relevant newsmakers for you. And this evening, we're privileged to have Dr. Spio-Garbrah. Doc, thanks very much. We're grateful and honored to have you. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm doing very well.
Great. I know it's been a long path from 2016's general election to the preparations leading to the 2020 election. When you take a look at the Electoral Commission and all it has gone through, from preparing a new voters register, from all the things that went into it, and the assurances that the Commission is giving us of its readiness, what are your observations on everything up to the point we are right now?
Well, first of all, let me acknowledge to your witness, your viewers, that I also have my protection, but we've decided that it's not necessary at this point to wear it. The Electoral Commission, of course, has a very long history. And I think the part of the history that is most relevant to our audience is the history of consultation that our various electoral commissioners from the days of the very first ones, Dr. Farijan, and through Madame Charlotte Osei, the IPAC, the Inter-Party Advisory Committee, and its role in setting the ground rules and for consultation and just making sure that everything that is being done is cleared. Now, unless I speak differently from what my party executives have been saying, the party is of the view, the NDC is of the view that they have not enjoyed the same kind of collaboration and consultation under the current Electoral Commission. So whether, and invariably, the Electoral Commission has had the approach of just steamrolling its views, irrespective of what our party members are saying. Most recently, it's come to light that certain documents that they've shared, apparently with regards to the final tally of, the electoral register, there are still a lot of anomalies in that register, and I believe at an appropriate time, the party will come out with what they are seeing. But other than that, from a global point of view, Ghana is still seen as a bastion of democracy and relative good governance in Africa. When you have countries to our left, in Cote d'Ivoire, where people are running for 3 terms, and to Guinea, where people are still running for 3 terms, and to Cameroon, where presidents have been in office for almost 40 years, and etc., Ghana still looks very good compared to these other countries. But as Ghanaians, we always want the best for our country. We may be seeking perfection, if we might say so. So even though certain things may look like only small issues for other people.
Are you more like saying that your party and yourself haven't been
my party is not satisfied at all. At all. I can say that my party is not satisfied.
So you're not confident that this Electoral Commission will deliver the outcome that you're expecting?
Well, it is at the end of the day tomorrow, and if there's any reruns or whatever, that we can reach a final conclusion as to whether this has been a free and fair election or not. But you may know that even in the United States, which we all have thought of as the bastion of democracy, the president of the United States till today has not yet accepted the results of that election and has not even invited the presumed winner of the election, that is Joe Biden, to the White House, even for coffee or for a drink or for water. He delayed for 3 weeks until just last week, I think, even giving authorization to other U.S. government officials to welcome or to treat, even to deal with the Biden administration, or incoming administration, even for the coronavirus task force, which ought to brief an incoming president on where they are with fighting the virus. They were not being given a chance to be. So that's the United States. And if you compare that to a developing country like Ghana, and things are still not perfect, then you can see why things are.
You can see the reason for the concerns. But let's look at your expectations for tomorrow.
Of course.
Irrespective of these concerns you raise and your party raise, you're psyched up enough for a contest tomorrow. What are your expectations?
My expectation is that the NDC has to win, but we are expecting to win against some very heavy-duty adverse decisions of the NPP administration. For example, the decision to collapse certain banks. Without getting into all the details, we see it as deliberately targeted at certain individuals and certain institutions which of course has cost the whole nation about 20 billion cedis, given the apparent cost of the financial cleanup of about 7 billion. We have just not any understanding as to why
those will be policy issues which will eventually make up the choices that people make. But I want us not to go into the areas where that it will be posing themselves as political campaign messages. Really, that's what we're trying to avoid.
No, they're not political campaign based. I'm saying we are doing an analysis. You're asking me the kind of expectations are why would people vote this way or why would they vote that way?
Great.
Yeah, so there's an analysis at this time, and I'm saying that among the reasons are the fact that many depositors have still not received their funds, and you've seen demonstrations and all kinds of things about those who say they still haven't received their deposits, and they claim they will vote against the ruling party just because they have been denied funds. There will be numerous factors in every village or locality. There'll be local issues. Roads have not been built in some areas. They have been built in some other areas. Free SHS, of course, is a debatable issue that has been discussed in various fora. The current administration makes a lot of claims about having introduced it. NDC also shows evidence on your TV station, other TV stations, of having rolled out a free SHS policy, partial free SHS in 2014.
Which it called
progressive. For example, it called progressive. So depending on how the electorate see actually who introduced it and who contributed to it, because we say government is a continuum. Yeah. Nobody starts from government from scratch. When you come, some things have been done already. A few roads have been built, you build a few more. Some clinics have been built, you build a few more. So often it's a challenge as to where the cake is sliced for individual parties to take their share of the credit, because obviously that's what is happening in Ghana now. But the good news for Ghana as a whole, on the broader scale, is that we are moving closer and closer to issue-based debates. The fact that one party is claiming that we've done more than you have done, and you also say you have also done more than we have done. So then the cup is either half full or half empty.
You think that's healthy?
No, it's healthy. It's that aspect is healthy.
Both sides focus on what they did, and they put forward their record.
It's a comparative comparison of records, as it were. So whether one party has built more schools or not built more schools, the other party has built more bridges, whatever. I mean, at least that is for the electorate to weigh. And our view is that when the weighing scale has been, if it is not fiddled with or adulterated, and it's a proper scale.
Your party is concerned that there are instances that suggest that the government will be, maybe the incumbent administration will be seeking to rig. I mean,
well, rigging comes in different ways. For example, you are aware of radio stations and TV stations that are not operating now. You know,
and that constitutes rigging.
No, XYZ. Well, if you cannot speak, party his voice has been muted, because we had stations that could speak our language for us whenever we wanted to say certain things, broadcast our messages, television, commercials. So if you cut all those things from us, I mean, you pack the judiciary with your judges of that you think are favorably disposed to you. And as I said, I started with the banking industry, also slice other. So if you look systematically, packing the courts, packing the security agencies with also West Bourbon type incidents, security forces that are supposedly loyal to only one group, pushing a lot of security people into the Volta region and frightening that region because you expect them to come out to vote and therefore you want to suppress their votes. All those things, a little bit adding up, will obviously have an effect. Of course, the COVID also gave the ruling government a lot of excuses to pump all kinds of goodies into the system and say free water, partially free electricity, so using public sector funds, but for political purposes. So it's up to us all to judge whether that is a free and fair election on those bases. So there may things that are not illegal, because you can give free water, but it obviously will have a certain effect on some people. Not everybody will have enjoyed.
You think that in the political context,
those things are important.
An unfair advantage.
Of course, anything that you can do that gives you an advantage over your opponent has a right to say it's unfair.
So you raised the issue of the AR. So I want to focus a little bit on that to talk generally about what your impressions are with the preparations by the security agencies to ensure everyone is protected and there is a peaceful election. For the police service, the army, and all security stakeholders are getting involved. Are you content with all the processes that have gone on in terms of security preparations?
Well, some of the things that they've done, I think, are noteworthy and are helpful. For example, attempts to identify or to give security personnel some particular uniforms and to share with the public the kind of uniforms that they would wear and the kinds of uniforms that will not be proper or illegal. Any of those kinds of things are helpful. Public education is always good. So to that extent, yes, if on the day, the reality is that we only see properly uniformed police officers, and as they themselves have said, they will not tolerate illegal, whether you call them, well, there's a name for them, macho men or whatever, or the Delta forces and all these vigilante groups, etc. The question, the NDC believes strongly that the vigilante groups have been merged with the existing security forces. So there are people in the security forces that are very well known to NDC.
So the NDC believes that irrespective of calls for disbanding political vigilantes, these vigilantes belonging to the ruling government have seamlessly merged into the security services.
That is the whole idea. They've been seamlessly merged. They have been regularized.
Is there evidence for that?
Oh, I think our security department or committee can give all the necessary evidence that anybody wants. I mean, this is well known. They can do it by individuals who are known. They have actually identified people who were not properly trained but happened to wear military or police uniforms. It's not my area of expertise. I'm only reporting what I've heard, and I'm sure you've also heard these things. And I'm sure there are various fora where our officials could come and provide appropriate evidence if that's the case. But let's go with the fact that a committee of inquiry was set up on so a commission with Emil Short as the chairman was set up. They made many recommendations. What has happened to recommendations? I mean, you're a news person. I think you're better informed than I am. But I am not able to tell you what has happened with 3, 4, 7, or 8 of the recommendations. I also was on commission of inquiry. As far as most Ghanaians are concerned, it has been packed and just been ignored. So as to how the government is attempting to implement any of the recommendations, I can't tell you, but our view was that the government did not seem interested in the commission's recommendations.
And that worries you and your
party? It has to worry all of us. It has to worry all Ghanaians. All Ghanaians want peaceful elections. I mean, I used to work for a church. I'm just coming from church, actually, by the way. So we pray all the time. We pray for the government of the day. We pray for His Excellency the President and the other members of the administration, for the Chief Justice and for the police. So we are not people who are opposed to them or against them or who do not wish them well. But we also hope and wish that His Excellency the President and the government of the day, who have power that has been ceded to them by all of us, the Ghanaian population, will use the power wisely and fairly so that not a single life is lost as a result of any misbehavior on election day.
I know that security issues are things that are on the hot burner for everyone, like you've said, but we're still going to have this election.
Absolutely.
And Ghanaians will still need to conduct themselves in a way that will give us credible elections.
Absolutely.
Of course, I know the expectations of the security agencies, but there are the supporters of the main opposition NDC, which you are from, and the ruling government's MPP, who have adopted, I should use the word, a little bit more of aggressive tactics and approaches to campaigning and rhetoric and all of that. Campaign season is over, though. But what would you say to all the supporters of the various parties in how they should conduct themselves to ensure that their vote counts and their vote delivers the win they are expecting?
Well, I think it's a matter of each party's supporters going to the polling booth early tomorrow morning and staying there, going through the processes. I guess there'll be some COVID protection processes. Then your name will be checked on the voters register and all of that. But at the last count, there were about 7,000 names on the voter register that were still not accounted for. I don't know in the last 2-3 days whether that has been regularized and all that has been cleaned up. But we are hoping not to have people going to any polling station and saying they don't find their name in register because they've just switched around and all kinds of things have happened to them. That will be the first test of whether that register is valid or not. But if people can go to the polling stations, vote their minds freely, come out freely, there are no macho men around, nobody's chased out of any place, there are no squabbles until we count the polling, the ballot box papers in each polling station, 38,000 or so polling stations, then the outcome will be, I hope, free and fair enough, and everyone, I think the two main candidates met recently, just a few days ago, and signed a peace pact and agreed both. And the good news is that both of them have lost before and have accepted before. You know, President Akufo-Addo has lost elections before. He has accepted, or at least he went to court and still lost and accepted it. And President Mahama has also lost an election the last time. He also accepted it. So already the Aubrey is for at least them, the leaders, to potentially accept if they don't get the outcome they deserve. But I know it's painful whenever you lose an election. As I'm saying, the President of the United States, as we said today, has not accepted a lost election.
So we're going into this election with so many issues. You raised one of them, the discussion on free senior high school and the positions of the various parties on this. You also raised the issue that this year's campaigning season has brought up a lot of issues, credible issues. So let's put education aside. Do you get the sense that the parties, NDC and MPP, have both made their ambitions well known enough through how elaborate they have taking their manifestos to the people?
I think if you look at the airtime that has been utilized, especially in the last couple of weeks, it's very heavy on political party messages. I mean, NDC has this message of, 4 more years to steal more if you want this NDC MPP to come to power. And PP is talking about 4 years more for their president. So the messages have come out, but that is where, of course, the incumbency advantages all over the world. The incumbent has more resources usually, and therefore can pump out a lot more messages using all kinds of, advertisements plus documentaries and interviews and normal airtime. In any case, any president anywhere in the world, by virtue of his position, anytime he speaks is news anyway. So if you look at a daily graphic almost any day, you find news. If you do a content analysis, 70% or 80% of the news, normal news, is for the ruling party.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they are using the various government agencies themselves, such as the National Board for Small-Scale Industries, which used to be under my ministry, Ghana Export Promotion Agency, and so forth, to also publicize whatever those agencies claim to have done. Ghana Export Import Bank put out figures about what they've done, planting for food and agriculture, putting out all kinds of figures. So a lot of government machinery is used to promote the incumbent's agenda, much to the detriment of the opponent. But it's partly normal politics. But it's also partly, as I said, the fact that the NDC's mouthpieces have been consciously muzzled, such as Radio XYZ and Radio Gold, and therefore NDC cannot, promote its agenda in as competitive a way as in the past.
And this brings me to the final question. I'd like to wrap up our conversation on how you get a sense that the two leading parties, NDC and MPP, their activities have been, excuse my wording, grand enough than the other minority parties, which don't seem to be making a lot of presence. Do you get a sense that perhaps...
this is a two-party country. I mean, two-party countries are not uncommon around the world. In Britain, it's a two-party country, Labour, Conservative. In the United States, a two-party country, Republicans and Democrats. And in Israel, there's Likud, and other countries, 2-3 parties are too many. I mean, in most countries, there are countries that have 75 or 80, political candidates or political parties. But in every election, only 2 or 3 really play significant roles. So in this election, the smaller parties are very important because if neither of the two parties gets 5 to, or is shot by 5 to 7%, let's say, it could go into a rerun.
And at that point, a first round win.
You don't get a first round win. Then you need the allies from the other parties to make it possible for you to...
Is the NDC expecting a second round? A round
that's I mean, because when you are in opposition, often it's not easy for you to knock your opponent out, just as in boxing, in a knockout punch.
But a runoff allows you to do that.
Say that again?
A runoff allows you
exactly.
to do that.
So that's why I'm saying you may have to go into a second round or a runoff in order to then take the battle finally to your opponent.
You are expecting a runoff?
I'm not expecting it. I'm saying it's a possibility, just because we are in opposition. So your attempt to knock off your opponent often may not take a knockout punch, and it may take winning on points.
Right, Dr. Spio-Garbrah, I'm very grateful for your time,
you so
and
much.
thank you extremely.
Yes.
So, Dr. Spio-Garbrah has been speaking to us, and this is still your Election Command Center.